Dear brothers and sisters, through the Spirit of St. Augustine, this is a homily for 23rd Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year B. Touch and be opened. This is the message for this Sunday. Jesus heals a deaf, mute person by simply touching him, and then looking up to heaven, he said, "Be opened." In one way, this story of healing the deaf, mute teaches us three main aspects that can aid us to unblock our spiritual deafness today. In a little while, in this homily, the three aspects will be exhaustively explained and elaborated. In the first reading, God speaks through prophet Isaiah, who gives hope and courage to the people of Israel in exile. How could this hope be realized? 1. The Lord will save them. 2. The ears of the deaf will hear. And lastly, the tongues of the dumb will sing for joy. In other words, God would touch and open the way for his chosen people. In fact, some theologians call this passage of Isaiah as the small apocalypse of Isaiah, because what is foretold there, it finds its fulfillment in the person of Jesus Christ in the New Testament. After having confronted the Pharisees about the pure and impure, the gospel passage of today gives us the saving actions of Jesus Christ, as foretold in the first reading of today. In details, first and foremost, as mentioned in the introduction, there are three main aspects or lessons that we can get from these liturgical readings of 23rd Sunday. That is, faith. Second, personal healing. And finally, the image of humanity before the coming of Christ. Let us begin with faith. By the fact that Prophet Isaiah tells the exiled chosen people to have courage and not to fear, it is an invitation to have faith in God and hope in him too. Even more importantly, in the gospel text, where we find the faith of the people who brought the deaf-mute to Christ to be touched for healing. Those people expresses some sort of faith in God and his saving power through his Son Jesus Christ. But one may ask this geographical question: where was Jesus exactly in this passage? It is hard to respond to this question because St. Mark did not intend to communicate a geographical reality, but rather a theological message. He simply mentions that Christ was outside the Jewish territory, particularly in the region of Decapolis, meaning 10 cities. Moreover, Mark portrays Christ in this passage as always on the move to encounter the marginalized, such as the sick and the abandoned. One of the theological messages that Mark willed to be communicated is faith. The faith that is universal because it is found even outside the Jewish territory. Besides, faith helps us to encounter Christ so as he can save us from slavery of sin. The second lesson we get from this passage is personal healing. In this healing story, after having encountered Christ, the deaf-mute person was pulled away from the crowd. He was withdrawn from the crowd, even though he was brought by some of them. The steps here taken by Jesus to heal this deaf-mute man are unique and full of meaning to us. By withdrawing him from the crowd shows that Christ wanted to have a personal encounter with him, to heal him on a personal level, and then let him to join the crowd with more strengthened faith. Christ also employs this methodology to withdraw a person from the crowd. For example, Mark chapter 8, verse 23, Christ heals a blind man at Bethsaida, but he withdrew him from the village. Embarking on the deaf-mute man, we realize that while he was withdrawn from the crowd, Christ touched his ears and tongue, looked at the heavens and said, "Be opened," and the man was healed completely. In a more elaborated way, to touch his tongue with saliva is strange. More particularly, in antiquity, saliva was used as a remedy for the eyes, as in Mark chapter 8, verse 23. It is logical to make a conclusion from this story that the words and gestures of Christ are effective and saving. Indeed, it comes a time when we are required to withdraw ourselves so as to be with Christ for personal experience and inner healing. The third and last lesson that we learn from this passage is the image of humanity before coming of Christ. This healing story reminds us that before the coming of Christ, man was deaf because he could not hear God speaking due to original sin and also unable to give praise to him. However, with the coming of Christ who died for our sins, man has been saved from slavery of original sin. Hence, he is able to hear the voice of God and even praise him. But even after that redemption, are we still deaf and dumb? A son had a dream at night. The following morning, he told his father, "Father, I had a dream." The father said, "Which dream?" The son said, "I saw 3 rabbits. The first one was very fat, the second one slim or thin, and the third was deaf-mute." Then the father asked, "What is the meaning of that?" The son said, "The fat rabbit is the lady that you, my father, give a lot of attention. You give her a lot of money and she eats very well." The father asked, "What of the slim rabbit?" The son continued that it is my mother who does not eat well and you don't take care of her at all. The father got a bit nervous. Afterwards, he asked his son again, "What of the deaf-mute rabbit?" The son sighed and said, "It is you, my father, who does not know and don't listen to advice about the extra affairs you have outside your marriage." It is true, we are sometimes deaf and mute in our life. That is why we need Christ to touch us and say the words, "Be opened." To conclude, Christ needs faith in order to heal our spiritual deafness. Nowadays, we hear a lot, but we listen less and understand little. The gesture of Christ looking up to heaven symbolizes prayer. Christ prayed even though he was the Son of God. What about you and me? May Christ touch and heal our spiritual deafness so that we may listen, understand his voice, and do his will. Amen. Have a blessed Sunday.